Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian. We are at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, where we are with budget guru and my good friend Todd Harrison. Todd, great seeing you again.
Great to see you.
I want to start, we track anniversaries here on this show, and we are now at an auspicious anniversary, the 5th anniversary of the Budget Control Act. You have very, very strong personal views about conflating the Budget Control Act and sequestration, and we'll get to that. It's not that it's a sore subject at all with
Not
with
that
Todd.
It's ever come up. Yeah.
Not that it's ever come
Never.
up. But bring us up to speed. I mean, why is this an important anniversary, and what does it tell us about what's to come?
Yeah, so August 2nd, 2011 is when the Budget Control Act was enacted. So that put in place budget caps for the defense and the non-defense parts of the budget. So for defense, that meant about $1 trillion reduction compared to what they had previously been planning in President Obama's FY12 budget request. So $1 trillion reduction. This has basically dominated the budget debate for the past 5 years. So interesting things have happened along the way, of course. So the Budget Control Act has been modified 3 times now. And each time they have raised the budget caps by equal amounts for the defense and non-defense sides of the budget. The last 2 deals, the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2013 and the BBA of 2015, they were 2-year deals, so they spanned a 2-year period each one. They increased the budget caps. The most recent deal, though, the BBA 2015 deal, it also included OCO funding as part of the deal, so that makes it even more interesting.
Thankfully, there's absolutely no cheating going on about the absolute nature of the Budget Control Act.
No, and so that's one of the things that's happened is that the Budget Control Act, it created a loophole effectively that anything Congress appropriates as being war-related, so what we call Overseas Contingency Operations funding, OCO funding.
Or wartime supplemental if you're an old-timer.
That's right. That does not count towards your budget caps. So that's convenient.
Because it's not real money.
It's not real money, right. And there's good reasons that you could get into a big war and you suddenly need more money. But it doesn't count towards the budget caps. It also does not clearly define what counts and what doesn't. So effectively, it is whatever Congress says it is, and the president agrees by signing it into law. Now, wouldn't you know that in Washington, a loophole might be exploited? And of course they have. They exploited it explicitly in the last budget deal by adding $8 billion in 2016 in OCO money for the base defense budget and an $8 billion increase in OCO funding for the non-defense side of the budget. More funding for non-defense. That's great. Only in Washington.
Yeah, again, very, very disciplined lot that we have up there on Capitol Hill and in the government.
Yeah, and so, what has happened, though, what's not as obvious is that DOD has actually started moving things in its budget request. If you look at the Afghanistan funding today, there's a tremendous amount of money in there that used to be in the base budget, and they've just relabeled it as being war-related and specifically for Afghanistan. So DOD is already putting about $25 to $30 billion a year from their base budget in the OCO request. That's why the OCO request has not come down commensurate with the reduction in troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. So going forward, this creates a big issue that the department has gotten used to using OCO funding to supplement its base budget, and it's never certain that that's going to be there in the coming years.
It's I don't know if you've noticed, but it is a presidential election year, I'm told. I've heard that, yeah. One of the candidates is saying that there's going to be a dramatic increase in military spending. I've been with a lot of retired military friends who are looking at that very optimistically, that there is going to be significantly more money. You watch budgets and budget trends. What's the likelihood that in the event Donald J. Trump becomes the next president of the United States, that there's going to be a big defense spending increase?
Well, it depends how well he can work with Congress, because we have an existing law on the books, the BCA, that puts in place budget caps. And if Congress tries to enact more money without increasing the budget caps, it's going to be sequestered again. So really what it comes down to is, can he work out a deal with Congress to raise the budget caps? And as long as we have divided government, I can tell you how that deal is going to take shape. For every $1 increase Republicans want for defense, Democrats are going to insist on a $1 increase for non-defense. That doubles the cost. Republicans have also said in the past that they want to offset any increases in spending with cuts elsewhere, and that becomes increasingly difficult to find places to cut. So I think that the BCA, the budget caps extend out until 2021. I think that really puts a damper on how much defense spending could grow in the coming years.
And Republicans have also consistently pushed back on the administration's higher budget targets anyway, seeking always to use the supplemental as sort of a backfill for it. But the deficit, though, the national debt is one of the reasons why the Budget Control Act was initiated in the first place, in controlling it. And we reduced the rate of increase, but the debt has been growing. And there are folks who are still saying that that is a big issue that has to be resolved, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican administration. How is that likely going to impact defense spending? Everybody has this sense that we're in the money and we're at the start of a new upcycle, whereas there are some folks who say, not so fast.
Well, yeah, if you look at the broader budget picture, what you see going on is the deficit, the amount we're borrowing each year, has come down dramatically. But the projections show that it's going to start going up again, and it will really increase significantly in the 2020s. And so in the near term, between now and the early 2020s, DOD may be able to get a little more money as long as Congress will adjust the budget caps and agree to put more money in OCO. That may happen, sure. But in the longer term, in the 2020s and beyond, we've still got a major structural budget deficit in the federal government. It is driven primarily by the demographic bow wave that we have of baby boomers moving into retirement, a greater proportion of people going on Social Security relative to workers who are paying taxes into the system, and the increase in costs for healthcare for seniors, for Medicare, Medicaid. And so that is a demographic certainty that that's going to happen. And unless something really changes and our economy starts growing gangbusters, we're going to see the deficit grow. We're going to see interest payments in the federal budget grow, and in the long term, that's going to squeeze defense spending. There's really no way around it.
And on that happy note, Todd, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Glad we could do this.